Hello and welcome to a special broadcast. India and Oman close neighbours, closer ties on the third and final leg of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's 4-day, 3-nation tour. I'm Munmun Bhattacharya. With me is my colleague Shubhendu Ghosh.
Thank you, Munmun. Welcome. Prime Minister Narendra Modi landed in Oman on Wednesday. This morning, he took part in the India-Oman Business Summit in Muscat, also interacted with students and select Indian community members.
Now the focus, Shubhendu, will shift to talks between Prime Minister Modi and the Sultan of Oman and exchange of pacts between the two sides.
Next couple of hours, our reporter will join us from the ground. Experts will join us to share their perspectives on the significance of the ties between India and its oldest strategic partner in the Gulf region, Oman. Let's get started.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi is on a 2-day official visit to Oman on the last leg of his 3-nation tour.
And Prime Minister Modi took part in the India-Oman Business Summit this morning in Muscat. Addressing the event, Prime Minister lauded the deep-rooted India-Oman friendship.
आज हम विश्वास के साथ कह सकते हैं कि समंदर की लहरें बदलती हैं, मौसम बदलते हैं, लेकिन भारत ओमान की दोस्ती हर मौसम में और मजबूत होती है और हर लहर के साथ नई ऊंचाई को छूती है.
Speaking on the Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement between India and Oman, PM Modi said that CEPA will fill India-Oman partnership with new energy and trust in the 21st century.
आज हम एक ऐसा ऐतिहासिक निर्णय ले रहे हैं जिसकी गूंज आने वाले कई दशकों तक सुनाई देगी. कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव इकोनॉमिक पार्टनरशिप एग्रीमेंट यानी सीपा हमारी पार्टनरशिप को 21st सेंचुरी में नया विश्वास, नई ऊर्जा से भर देगा. यह हमारे साझा भविष्य का ब्लूप्रिंट है. यह हमारे ट्रेड को नई गति देगा, इन्वेस्टमेंट को नया भरोसा देगा और हर सेक्टर में अवसरों के नए द्वार खोलेगा. सीपा हमारे नौजवानों के लिए ग्रोथ, इनोवेशन और एम्प्लॉयमेंट के अनेक नए अवसर बनाएगा.
In his address, Prime Minister highlighted when India grows, it makes its friends part of its journey. Prime Minister added that India is moving at a speed to become third largest economy in the world, presents great advantages for Oman as a maritime partner.
आज बिजनेस वर्ल्ड में भारत की इकोनॉमी की रेजिलियंस की चर्चा होती है. लोग अक्सर पूछते हैं कि दुनिया में इतनी अनिश्चितता है, ग्लोबल इकोनॉमी भी मुश्किलों में है, तो ऐसे में भारत 8% से अधिक की ग्रोथ कैसे अचीव कर रहा है? मैं आपको इसका बड़ा रीजन बताता हूं. असल में बीते 11 वर्षों के दौरान भारत ने सिर्फ पॉलिसी नहीं बदली है, भारत ने अपना इकोनॉमिक डीएनए बदला है.
And India's Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal also addressed the India-Oman Business Summit. Speaking at the summit, the Minister Goyal said that CEPA will enable more ambitious trade, duty-free exports. It will help India get more access to West Asia, Central Europe and Africa.
The CEPA will act as an enabler of a more ambitious future by offering duty-free access addressing trade barriers and simplifying rules. It will allow our exports to be more competitively priced in each other's economies. We invite Omani business persons to leverage India's vibrant market, while Indian businesses will find Oman as a strategic gateway to the Gulf, Africa, and West Asia. The comprehensive economic partnership would facilitate greater market access for our professionals and firms, supporting Oman's Vision 2040.
Piyush Goyal also added that Oman signing another FTA after nearly 20 years shows strong India-Oman ties. The minister added that CEPA signing will be a harbinger of new chapter in India-Oman relations.
The fact that this is Oman's second FTA with a country directly, an FTA that they are entering into after nearly 20 years, the last being in 2006, demonstrates the importance that Oman places to the India relationship and correspondingly India's own commitment to work with our friends in Oman to further strengthen this relationship and elevate it to much higher levels.
At this business summit, Oman's Minister of Commerce, Industry and Investment Promotion, Qais Mohammad Al Yusuf, lauded the signed pacts and said that it will give boost to economies of both the nations.
We would like to further expand the horizon of our economic investment cooperation. The comprehensive economic partnership agreement that has been signed is also extremely important, and we strongly emphasize its significance. It is a very strategic and forward-looking agreement. This agreement reflects our shared vision to further expand our trade and economic cooperation in a way that benefits both countries.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi also attended a program by the Indian community in Oman on Thursday. The event, Maitri Parv, marks the completion of 50 years of Indian schooling system in Oman.
Prime Minister Modi received a grand welcome at the event by Indian diaspora in Oman. It's filled with energy and enthusiasm to welcome the Prime Minister. The Indian diaspora continues to play a key role in bringing India and Oman closer.
करतल ध्वनि के साथ स्वागत कीजिए हम सबके प्रिय आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री श्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी का।
Before addressing the community event, PM Modi interacted with the Indian diaspora. Addressing the program, PM Modi highlighted the importance of India-Oman Maitri Parv. Right.
And those some visuals coming in from Oman, Prime Minister Narendra Modi engaging with different stakeholders, sections of society. He engaged with students and members of Indian community, also delivered an address to draw a roadmap of India-Oman cooperation. These are visuals that just came in. The special interaction that Prime Minister had with young students in Muscat, Oman.
The Indian education system, the Indian schools there have completed 50 years so far. There are 22 Indian schools in which 48,000 students study. There are very strong people-to-people and educational linkages between India and Oman. There are around 675,000 Indians that live and work in Oman. 500,000 of them are on work visas. They are working across sectors like education, hospitality, tourism, health. They are working as doctors, engineers in the field of IT, construction, manufacturing, to name a few. And there are also several Indian families that have been living in Oman for centuries, in fact, and Some of those families' histories have been archived by the Indian Embassy as well. So there are very strong, centuries-old people-to-people ties and linkages underpinned by strong trade linkages between India and Oman.
And the visuals that you're looking at on your screens are of Prime Minister Narendra Modi a short while ago, very warmly interacting with the members of Indian community, especially Indian students. Prime Minister had developed an address to this gathering in which he spoke about the manner in which education is going to be such a significant bridge to bring the people, especially the youth, the new generations of India and Oman together. Prime Minister presented key takeaways of India's growth story and also invited the youth of both Indian origin and Oman to be a part of this India origin, especially in the domain of technology and space sciences. These visuals of young students getting selfies and photographs and special memories etched with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. This was one of the two key events that Prime Minister had participated today in Muscat, Oman. Coming up next would be Prime Minister's engagement with the Sultan of Oman. These visuals came in a short while ago. A packed crowd of Indian students, members of Indian diaspora, members of Omanian population, youth, youngsters, students had all gathered in this packed auditorium, bearing witness to Prime Minister's address, where he presented a roadmap of India-Oman cooperation in the years ahead.
Well, the depth of people-to-people connections and mutual respect can be seen in a popular legend in Oman. When the former President of India, Dr. Shankar Dayal Sharma, was visiting Muscat, the late Sultan himself decided to drive him because he had been his professor, which says a lot about the special message to the people of both countries of strong educational linkages between the two countries. Prime Minister meeting Indian students there, studying in various schools in Oman, and also members of the Indian diaspora.
That's right, Munmoon. And in fact, addressing this program, the visuals of which we were looking at, Prime Minister Modi highlighted the importance of India-Oman Maitri Parv, or Friendship Festival.
आज हम सब यहाँ भारत ओमान मैत्री पर्व भी मना रहे हैं। मैत्री यानी एम से मैरीटाइम हेरिटेज, ए से एस्पिरेशंस, आई से इनोवेशन, टी से ट्रस्ट एंड टेक्नोलॉजी, आर से रिस्पेक्ट, आई से इंक्लूसिव ग्रोथ, यानी ये मैत्री पर्व हम दोनों देशों की दोस्ती, हमारी शेयर्ड हिस्ट्री और प्रॉस्परस फ्यूचर का उत्सव है।
Calling India as UPI, the world's largest real-time digital payment system, PM Modi said that today India is building the world's biggest digital public infrastructure.
21वीं सदी का भारत बड़े फैसले लेता है, तेजी से निर्णय लेता है, बड़े लक्ष्यों के साथ आगे बढ़ता है और एक तय टाइमलाइन पर रिजल्ट लाकर ही दम लेता है। साथियों, मैं आपको गर्व की एक और बात बताता हूं। आज भारत दुनिया का सबसे बड़ा डिजिटल पब्लिक इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर बना रहा है। भारत का यूपीआई यानी यूनिफाइड पेमेंट्स इंटरफेस दुनिया का सबसे बड़ा रियल टाइम डिजिटल पेमेंट सिस्टम है।
And joining us now for perspective are Ambassador Anil Kumar Trigunayat, the former Indian ambassador, and also Meena Singh Roy, foreign affairs expert. Our correspondent Gautam Roy is also joining us from Muscat, the capital of Oman, where all the action is taking place. Gautam, coming to you, what would you say has been the biggest takeaway so far in the engagements of the Prime Minister?
Well, hi Munmun, and to you as well, Shubhendu. The biggest part, of course, has been the kind of reception that the Prime Minister got yesterday when he arrived in Muscat, and then his community event as well. But the undercurrent has all been about the CEPA, the Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, which is to be signed and exchanged in the presence of the top leaders of the two countries very shortly from now, because the action is shifting to Bilateral Baraka, the palace of Sultan Haytham bin Tariq now, where they will have a one-on-one, a tete-a-tete, and then delegation-level talks, and then they will witness the exchange of those documents, which are expected to take India-Oman trade and investment, even the movement of people, to a different level altogether, more than doubling trade in less than 5 years, which is already at $10.6 billion, because Oman is not just about Oman. Oman is about the entire region beyond as well, Africa, Central Europe, and perhaps even because Oman already has a free trade agreement for the last nearly 20 years with the US. So onwards, perhaps, depends on how this CEPA is implemented, but onwards perhaps to the US market as well, where right now Indian goods and services are facing tremendous 50% tariffs because of the kind of punitive tariffs that India has been laden with because of its oil trade with Russia. So all that can be in a way facilitated through Oman. We've seen how the UAE-India free trade agreement, the CEPA, has reaped us rich dividends in a very short span of time. The same kind of outcome, or even better, because Oman has these ports that can be accessed very well. They can become bases for manufacturing for Indian companies as well. We already have Jindal Steel and Power here for the last 15 years, and it's got the largest stake among Indian companies in Oman, and they've been doing a lot of business, so much so that not only has Oman become self-sufficient in steel production, but it can also export that product that an Indian company is making in Oman. So this is just one of the examples that that I have heard of in the last couple of days that I've been here.
Right, Gautam, also, especially in the domain of economic engagement, given that CEPA is now done, diversifying economic linkages seems to be an interesting focus, from conventional fossil fuel-based energy linkages to now focus shifting to green technology and sustainable energy sources.
Yes, certainly. I mean, Oman is looking at those opportunities very, very closely. It's already part of the International Solar Alliance. They're talking about green hydrogen, green ammonia, setting up bases there as well, perhaps strategic oil reserve for India too, on Omani soil. It can very easily be transported across the Arabian Sea to India as and when required. So that is also something that can be done. The possibility of that becomes very, very very prominent when you have a CEPA kind of an arrangement. Apart from that, manufacturing, even retail, of course, travel and tourism has been there, but that can be enhanced further. Hospitality and health and other, even high-tech areas, even startups coming together. That's what Piyush Goyal was talking about.
Yes.
That the PM has in fact given goals that we should have an innovation group. We should have people in infra looking at each other very carefully as well, both India and Oman. So the scope is tremendous. I mean, both these countries have their own core capabilities. Oil and gas, of course, where Oman is there, but apart from that, I've spoken to people from the mining sector as well, and they're looking at JVs too. Interestingly, the 6,000 JVs that India and Oman have because of a joint venture fund, one of those companies is about to be listed on the Omani Stock Exchange as well. It's going to IPO very soon. So that will again be a very landmark event that I've just learned in a couple of last days.
Right, so CEPA will further enable trade diversification. Well, Ambassador Trigunayat, to quote from the headline of an article that you've written, this is a timeless partnership that's entering a new strategic era or a new strategic phase. So tell us about what do you think would be the most important component of this new phase?
Thank you, Munmun. I think that as far as Oman is concerned, it's a given that it is our oldest strategic partner. We have this historic civilization links going back to about 5,000 years. And if you visit Oman, you will see that, feel that on the streets of Oman as well, as far as India is concerned. Many Indians who have been living there for years, or rather centuries, have been Omanized. And they are now Omani citizens. And you will see them wearing the same kind of kafaya and other uniforms that the Omanis have. So there is a tremendous special affection as far as India is concerned in Oman. Now, this is the second CEPA that we will be signing now after the UAE one. And in the UAE already we have about 100% growth in our bilateral trade. And there are great expectations. So here as well, this is what is asked. And I think it's a very strategic move on our part for the simple reason because we have probably learned greater lessons from the faux pas that the Americans have committed against India. And therefore, diversification is something that is extremely important. While we may sign some kind of a trade agreement with them, but India has already moved on with diversification across the world. While we are discussing about 50 odd FTAs with different countries, and you will see many more. Now, this will become, along with the UAE one, become a template for our growth with India GCC FTA that we are talking about. So it will provide much greater access. On the other hand, these countries, Oman and Jordan, Prime Minister visited just now, have the maximum number of outreach or market access in different countries and different geographies, and which gives the Indian companies a greater advantage. Gautam just mentioned about 6,000 Indian companies under this India-Oman Investment Fund, which when I was looking after the region, we started off, has very successfully moved it across domains, and that has also increased investments in India on behalf of the Omanis. But what Prime Minister has tried to say is a new kind of thing in this business one. He has set new targets for them. Basically, it's exactly how do you challenge yourself to go into newer areas, green areas. We just talked about how the artificial intelligence, the digital areas, as well as in the innovation hubs. So he says, can we make into a hub? Now, Oman also has very close relations with Africa, and they have actually been historically been part of Africa in certain ways, and therefore that is where it's extremely important. It's also in terms of Indian Ocean. I mean, it is amazing, or the RC. I think that this collaboration in the defense, security, strategic domain is going to be quite a defining feature going forward. And with Oman, the best part about Oman is that this is a country which follows very similar foreign policy as we do. For example, they believe in dialogue, they have diplomacy, peace. They have been a peacemaker in the region. Any time, any problem that occurred, it is the Omani Sultan, who was the most respected, who took neutral positions, was able to interlocute among all the major problems that happened in the region, whether it was Saudi Arabia, Iran, or for that matter, the Qatari blockade, or any issue that you talk about, the Omanis will be present. So from that point of view also, it provides us a greater comfort level of congruence, convergences and alignments.
Right. Dr. Meena Singh Roy, ma'am, if we look at Prime Minister's three-nation visit, there was this larger objective of Link West that we were talking about with the developments that we've seen in Oman so far. How do you see that objective being taken forward significantly?
First of all, I would like to say that this particular, visit, a three-nation visit of Prime Minister Modi, has to be viewed in the context of how India is actually looking at Greater West Asia, that I call, meaning, West Asia is just not Gulf, but it is beyond that. So number one, that is one. Second, when it comes to Oman, I would say Ambassador Anil Trigunayat has already highlighted, many details about it. But from the point of view of the significance of India-Oman relations, I think it is strategic, it is unique, and it is something which goes beyond just the words that are being spoken and things which are being talked about. So it's a very unique, real, comprehensive strategic partnership. When we look at the region and the inward-looking policy, we are living in an era, I would say, of inward-looking policies within the region, and there is a major shift even regionally, I would say, because the focus is on economic development, which is underpinned by the perception that the US is going to be focused more on their own interests, their own affairs, and where they feel they cannot completely rely with it. I'm not trying to deny the fact that the US is not a major factor, but the new regionalism in terms of strategic partnerships, realignments, economic diplomacy. So I think these are the changing era, I would say, and the diversified foreign policy and the economic policy is just not India's approach, but it is also the regional approach. The countries within the region are looking towards nations like India, which is considered to be delivering what the nations are wanting. So it is also something when India's partnership with these countries, with any foreign relation, you talk about whether it is with the Eurasian region, whether it is with the African, India has been actually a real development partner for these countries, which means we are, also looking at what the countries or the nations are wanting from us. So it is actually mutually a win-win relationship that is being developed today. So internally, as I said, Oman is a very, very special country, and I've always said, I mean, now we are developing ties with all the Gulf partners and beyond Gulf countries, I would say so.
Right.
So in that context, I think this is a very welcome step, and internally also, if you see the visits from the Omani side, there have been a forward-looking movement, be it defense, be it security, be it maritime. So economic partnership is something I think the CEPA is a game changer, I would say now in this
Indeed.
context.
Absolutely.
And there is a greater desire even from within these nations to take this special partnership to a higher level.
Right, Gautam Roy continues to be with us. Gautam, you were in the UK as well when CETA in this year itself was exchanged and signed by the two sides. And I understand in the past few years, this is the fifth or the sixth. It could well be the sixth CEPA or FTA that's been signed by India with a country or a group, because there is UK, there is EFTA, there is Australia, UAE, Mauritius, and now Oman. So having said that, do you sense foresight in terms of trade strategy here, which is focused on diversification, on the existing challenges in the economic and trade domain, on resilience as well?
Well, yes, certainly, Munmun, because you see, India has been trying to work out trade deals with regional groupings. We've seen how the negotiations with the EU have been going on for many years. They were paused as well in the middle, and then they took off again. We've had a similar sort of an effort with the GCC nations together as a collective as well, but again, that has been a bit tied up at the GCC end itself, because the nations have not been able to agree as to how to take it forward. We have one with ASEAN nations as well, but we've been seeking a renegotiation of that. So it seems
Gautam, we'll just interrupt you for a moment. I think we're now getting visuals of the bilateral engagement between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Sultan Haitham bin Tariq, Sultan of Oman. Those visuals coming in from the Bait el Baraka palace. Those visuals of Prime Minister Narendra Modi sitting with Sultan of Oman, Sultan Haitham bin Tariq, the two leaders holding bilateral engagement, a tete-a-tete talk at the same time, and accompanied by the delegates from both sides. Those visuals of the Sultan warmly welcoming Prime Minister Narendra Modi at the Bilateral Palace, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi exchanging greetings with the delegation members of Oman.
Right, this is the second visit of Prime Minister Narendra Modi to the Sultanate of Oman. His last visit was in February 2018. It follows the state visit of His Majesty the Sultan of Oman to India in December 2023. Goes on to show the exchanges at the highest level that are taking place between the two sides. This year is significant because India and Oman are together celebrating the 70th anniversary of establishment of diplomatic relations. Oman, of course, is the oldest strategic partner of India in the Gulf region. When the Sultan of Oman, Haitham bin Tariq, had paid a state visit to India in December 2023, the two leaders had together agreed upon a future roadmap to deepen ties between the two countries, and many of those initiatives are now under implementation. So there is not only intent but also speed when it comes to executing the understandings reached between the two sides.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi is in Oman in the final leg of the three-nation tour. And in these visuals, Prime Minister Narendra Modi being welcomed at the Bilateral Palace, residence of Sultan of Oman, and there Sultan of Oman, Sultan Haitham bin Tariq, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi, along with their members of the delegation, holding talks in the palace, Bilateral Palace of Sultan of Oman. Prime Minister Narendra Modi in the final leg of the three-nation visit. Ambassador Anil Kumar Trigunayat, we're getting those visuals of the bilateral talks that have just started. It'll be interesting for us to also focus on the rapport that the two leaders shared, Prime Minister of India and the Sultan of Oman, the kind of worldview, the convergence in their interest and worldview that is taking the nation forward. What would you say?
Well, as I said in the beginning, that there is a definite convergence and congruence on the way we look at it. Both India and Oman want a stable and secure West Asia or the Middle East. And they are both against any kind of a terrorism or any extremism that goes against the very fabric of the two countries. And similarly, the relationship between Prime Minister Modi and the Sultan is evident actually. When he was here in December 23, we had also invited Oman as a special invitee to our G20 summit. Of course, at that time he could not come, but he followed for a bilateral visit, and several different agreements were signed during that time. So Prime Minister Modi has this connect with the leaders, and we have seen in all through. In fact, I was also ambassador to Jordan when he visited Jordan recently, and you could see that how it played out and how the overall impact of the visit in terms of optics and the substance both. But one word I would like to say, Shubhendu, you in the beginning, you mentioned about Link West, and that is one word I take a lot of exception to. There is no Link West now. We have been linked forever. I mean, why should we have this kind of civilizational amnesia? I mean, this is the oldest country with which we have. Unfortunately, we had a transactional relationship for decades with these countries because we thought that they were very close to Pakistan or whatever, irrespective. And then over time, under this government, we have seen, since at least 2008 onwards, but more appropriately from 2014-15 onwards, that there has been a specific emphasis on developing ties with the Middle Eastern countries, with the West Asia. And Prime Minister Modi, I mean, this is his second visit here. His seventh visit to UAE. He has been to Jordan. This is the second time he just went there. So he's been doing it, and we are inviting all these leaders. So this is truly an Act West policy rather than simply a Link West policy, even though MEA sometimes like to refer to it for want of a better word. But the fact remains is that this is truly West Asia policy in action. And we are just looking at it. I was in UAE 3 days ago, and Dr. Jaishankar was there. He had the high-level dialogue there. Thereafter, he went to Israel, and then now he's back in Oman. So we are continuing to have very close interactions with all these countries. And today the relationship between India and the region as well as with Oman is at a very different level.
Yes, also Ambassador, talking about energy cooperation, there was to be an India-Iran-Oman pipeline project, but that hasn't seen much progress. Would you say that it's time to probably revive that as well, other than focusing on the new areas of cooperation in the energy sector, like green hydrogen and green ammonia, solar energy, to name a few?
Yes, you are right, Munmun. In fact, I referred to this in my article, which you referred to earlier, that this is a project which has been in the pipeline for nearly 2 decades. When I was in the ministry, there are companies that were coming to us trying to find out, but somehow the government in India did not show much interest at the time. And hopefully now they'll look at it, because we have to see energy security for India. Even if we are going in a very big way into the green hydrogen and to other non-conventional or the renewable energy areas, we will continue to depend a great deal on the hydrocarbons for at least 30-40 years. If we have to grow at the rate of 7 to 8%, we have to assure energy supply. And we'll have to work on this, because see, we can't go through the other TAPI and other airlines because of Pakistan factor. So therefore, we have to find something between Iran, Oman. Iran also and Oman, they have excellent relationships. And therefore, it makes ample sense. Only thing is, we have to do the kind of, studies conduct, so the viability of the project is found out for that pipelines, yes.
Right. Dr. Roy, one common element of cooperation that one can witness in Prime Minister's engagement, in India's engagement with various partner countries, and I'm just looking at Prime Minister's engagement in Japan earlier, then the Russian president was in India, and now with the SEPA in Oman. Labour mobility, opportunities for Indian workforce in foreign shore in a more organized manner, in a manner in which more facilities may also perhaps be accorded to them, appears to be in focus. Oman is home to already some 700,000 members of Indian diaspora. And with the SEPA, with labour mobility in focus, how do you see this particular aspect of partnership being taken forward?
I think even in his previous visit, when Prime Minister Modi visited Oman, he did visit the labor, of camp, and he even then many things were showed, and there's been a forward movement, I would say, on this particular aspect. And at the same time, you referred to, Prime Minister Modi and Putin's agreement, where, there would be a movement of people to Russia. This is the first time that, this has been accepted. So I personally feel, as it is with Oman, we have a very strong strategic partnership, and we have, people living there. There was a time when we, as part of the MPIDSA, we had done a major study immediately after the Nitakat program was declared. And that, created a kind of a fear within India. So we did a big, project sponsored by the MEA. And we found that, as far as this aspect is concerned, this is going to be, taken much more seriously. And actually, it has been proven today when, Prime Minister Modi, with his personal connect to not only the top leadership, but also the people and the security, safety of our own people. And I think he has referred not only in this this meeting, but also in most of the meetings that he has organized with the Indian people. So this is definitely, I think, an area where there's been, much more focus by the government of India. And, there've been talk between the Gulf partners, where we have the majority Indians living. Now we have seen that the people have moved to Israel also. And I would call it that the movement of the people, the from India to various parts, wherever it is possible. This is also a diversification. And there is a diversification within the Gulf countries also. So you have, this whole, conversation with the people on ground, when we talked about it. So there was this fear within the region that it should not be completely dominated by, the labor force of one country. So they have people from Nepal, but still the image, the action, and the delivery, and the way Indians have contributed to the real, economic growth, the infrastructure development, and in every respect, I would say, has been very different. So this is one area where we will see, better results. And of course, there has been a major focus within the ministry as well. Maybe Ambassador Anil Tribunayat could add more to it. But there was one time, about 10, 12 years back, when there were some fears. But now I think people feel confident. The labor who are working there are much more confident. And the way our embassy and our officials are working, to stay connected with them whenever there's been problem.
Okay.
So there are many such examples that I can give where, personally, Prime Minister Modi has picked up a call and spoken to people to see to ensure the welfare, safety, and security of the Indian forces out there.
Right. Taking that point forward in a different way, but Ambassador Tribunayat, we know of the Omanization national policy of Oman, where it gives priority in the public and private sector to recruiting Omani nationals over expatriates. This is done to reduce unemployment there and to reduce dependency on expatriate workers. Yet now we have SEPA, which focuses on trade, investment, services, labor mobility. So is this really a win-win partnership and a recognition that there are newer areas of cooperation where Indian skilled labor will be important? So is this really a very inclusive approach on the part of Oman as well to prioritize Indian labor and to prioritize giving and getting greater market access and be a gateway for third country exports from India, considering the kind of sanctions that the Russian oil has been facing?
Yes, Munwan, that's true. In fact, and as far as Omanization or Emiratization or Kuwaitization and all, this is also a normal growth where they have to also look at their own people and their requirements. But at the same time, today we have about 700,000 Indians living in Oman, and they are regarded very well by the locals as well as the local authorities, who really attribute a great deal of their success to these people who are there contributing to the growth and development of Oman and other countries wherever they are. In fact, in UAE, for example, we used to have about 2.2 million people. Today you have 4.4 million Indians. It's doubled almost. So requirements will be there in the Middle East. And in certain countries where they have their own challenges, definitely there will be certain jobs will be localized. And that is not a big problem, actually. That's a good thing, because that gives us an opportunity to reskill our people, to bring them up. And as we move the value chain, it will be important to get the right kind of people into the market. And that's why this mobility becoming a part of the SEPA will help in that sense. That means more professionals will be coming in the domain, and we already have large number of Indians who are in the managerial positions, who are the entrepreneurs, who have the businesses. So the value of those will increase further because they will be there. But at the same time, I mean, the menial work eventually are going to be done by technological, robotic and other things. So that we'll have to see. So we'll have to have this policy from now on, which I think Prime Minister has already announced and is being done. Swadesh or whatever it is called. And under that, there will be reskilling of the people. So going forward, they are wanted everywhere. Now newer markets are opening. Russia, for example, wants 1 million people. Israel wants very large number of Indians all the time. So Indians are in great demand. And in whole of the Middle East, if you have seen, that there will be comparable to others, you will find that the Indians are preferred. That's true. As far as the institutional mechanisms to address their grievances are concerned, We have the consular consultations on a regular basis with the governments. We take up the issues. We maintain our own places where people who are really, you know, are not happy can be kept and sent back. So our embassies are actually doing a lot with regard to keeping in contact and taking meetings with them on a regular basis. Most embassies conduct their weekly meetings. The consular officers go there. The consular camps are conducted, despite the country being small. So we have to look after our own people, but we have to keep upgrading their skill sets so that they become more relevant to the growth story. In fact, you will find, like India, these countries in the region are also diversifying at a much faster pace. And they want to become the leaders in that sense, not only dependent on the hydrocarbons, but at the same time in the technological domain as well.
Right. Also, Ambassador Trigunayat, I thought the Maitri Parv program that Prime Minister addressed Indian students, Omani students, members of Indian community was particularly significant in delivering the message of the kind of power and partner that India seeks to be in the global south. When Prime Minister welcomes young students from Oman to witness and be part of India's growth story, when he says that when India grows, it also helps the friends grow along with it. At a time of increasing protectionism in the world, distrust, these are important messages being sent out by Prime Minister to the next generation of leadership.
Indeed, I think that this was one of the very good part of the program when he addressed the young people, because even our schools themselves have been about nearly 36 schools we have, which are about 50 years old, and they are celebrating their 50th anniversary, and a large number of Omani children are also there. We also used to have, and I think even now, we have large number of Omani students in India. And therefore, it is very important, because once they are here or they are exposed to, we should create more youth exchanges at the school level, frankly, between India and Oman. Even if government of India has to sponsor that, we must sponsor that, either under ICCR or otherwise. That will be very important, because it should be increased in a significant manner, apart from them being in the school, because they are the ones who are going to take these relationships to the next level. And Prime Minister Modi is, I was listening to, I couldn't note down what he said, but his Maitri,
Maitri Parv, yes.
Yes, Maitri Parv is fine, but Maitri word,
yes.
The way he explained what it is, M stands for maritime and I for, I think, innovation.
He said maritime, aspiration,
respect,
innovation,
correct,
trust, respect and inclusive development.
And respect. So that's what, that says it all, actually, frankly, how the relationship is encompassed.
Okay. Let's take the discussion forward, but before that, there is an interaction that our correspondent Gautam Roy has done in Muscat. He spoke with Yusuf Ali. He is chairman of Lulu Group International, who shared his insights on India-Oman trade relations. Take a listen.
Day 2 of the Prime Minister's second visit to Oman goes, and that is the Oman-India Business Forum. All the top business persons from India, a delegation has come in from India as well, and all the top businessmen from Oman, even the public sector is here. In fact, with me right now, Yusuf Ali, he's chairman of the Lulu Group. Good morning to you, and thank you for joining us, Mr. Yusuf Ali. What do you make of the prospects of India and Oman businesses, particularly when there's a SEPA happening now?
Both the countries will benefit. We have got a lot of products which we are importing, about 1,000 crore rupees per year we import. But we now will double our import, because when the SIPA sign, here there will not be any duty like that. And from here also a lot of industrial petroleum products which India can also import. So both the countries will benefit.
So that's the trade aspect of it, which will grow exponentially with the SEPA. What about investments? Both India and Oman are looking for investments. Oman looking to diversify from energy, which it mostly produces, and India also looking to set up industrial bases, particularly in this region.
See, under the dynamic leadership of our Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji, we are going to be 5 trillion economy and third largest economy in the world. So all these GCC countries will benefit, because a lot of bilateral trading and industrial relationship is grown, and the personal relationship between now we are in Sultanate of Oman. The personal relationship between His Majesty Sultan Haitham bin Tariq and also our Honorable Prime Minister. So personal, trading, bilateral, and industrial. Both the relations are happening now and going great.
In the global geopolitical scenario, it has changed quite a lot ever since Donald Trump, the U.S. president, came to his second term. He imposed tariffs on India, even punitive tariffs on India because of buying oil from Russia. But a country like Oman already has an FTA with the U.S. It's almost 20 years now. How do you think that dynamic with the U.S. change?
India is a great country. So nobody can dictate the conditions with our country. So our country will go up and we will reach 5 trillion. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. So that was Yusuf Ali. He said, regardless of any restrictions, there are many countries in the world who want to do business with India, enhance their business with India. Oman is one of them, which is why the CEPA is taking place.
Yes, Dr. Roy, you wanted to come in before we went into this interaction.
Okay, what I was suggesting is that today, when we are looking at the bilateral, engagements, I think, one aspect is very, very clear in the agreements that have been signed, past, present, and future that we are looking at. It is going to grow exponentially when it comes to, India, specifically, whether we are talking about West Asia, whether we are talking about Africa, whether we are talking about Eurasia. I think it would. But I think the centrality of West Asia is something which has been established today. In every respect, I would say, regardless of the major realignments that are being talked about. So this is what I wanted to say. One particular thing which I would like to focus here is also, the people to people and especially the youth. This is an era of, engaging and sustaining the engagement with the younger generation today. And I have personally seen how the youth within, these countries, especially West Asian region, whether they are men or women, they have been very, very vocal. They have also been vocal about the strategic autonomy, about the diversification, about, getting a better education, and also looking for the partners which would help develop their nation. So that is one new aspect. I mean, there was time when there was a complete dependence on Europe and US. They only looked towards Europe, and it was very Eurocentric view that we used to hear. But today, the reference has been made to, the importance of the countries in the South, the South-South cooperation, the way, the leadership in the major countries, particularly India, I would say, G20 was one successful story when we talk about. When we look at, Africa also, it is more, I would call it a relationship where there is much expectation from India, and they do feel that India can deliver. So I think these are the new aspects of the relationship which are being developed. Second is, we have discussed many times, a different kind of an order which is in flux, and, multipolarity, bipolarity, unipolarity, or what exactly it is. I think it is an era where, we would see more minilateral arrangements when the countries would understand, how the bilateral countries look at the third party, how, minilaterals like India, UAE, US, there are many minilaterals that are being, in action today. Even in the Gulf, I2, U2, or, we talk about various other arrangements. which are unfolding today. So I think it's a very different world that we are living in, and as I said, taking forward the aspirations of youth and the aspiration autonomy of an individual country is become very, very significant today.